record.
Okay, I am calling to order the Aberdeen Architectural Conservation District Commission public hearing to order at 4:02 on June 11, 2026. Commissioners present are Ed Bradenberg, Kirsten Hoffman, Helen Pillsbury, and Sharon Cayley. Today, the Commission will be holding a public hearing to review applications in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. We are conducting this meeting online to ensure public access to the deliberations of the Aberdeen Architectural Conservation District Commission. The public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
Terrific.
We will begin. Oh, I'm sorry. We want to review the meeting minutes from April 28th.
April 9th.
I'm sorry, April 9th. Yes. And have all of the commissioners reviewed them?
Yes, and I have a comment.
Go for it.
I have a correction, and I apologize, Nick, because I noticed this when I was reviewing it before last month, and I meant to let you know before this month so you could already have gotten it corrected, but I forgot to do that. In the minutes under 127, under 123 KILSYTH Road, that's the second application on that minutes. It's clearly like just a cut and paste issue that it says proposed work new business signage. That was what the previous application 1930 Beacon Street was, and just that got brought forward instead of
perfect
description of that. So I'm sorry about that, because I meant to have told you that by now.
I can make that correction. Cool. So as long as we're cool with that provisos, we can do that now. We can make the approval. Yeah.
All right. Any other commissioner observations? For the April 9 minutes? I'll entertain a recommendation that we accept them as submitted.
With provisos. Sorry.
With the provisos. Sorry. Yeah.
So moved.
Okay, I'll second. So we're all in favor, and we can move on to the next agenda item, which is the design review of 2045, I'm sorry, the application number 260916. It's 2045 Commonwealth Avenue. Expand existing elevator head house. Can we have a brief presentation from the applicant?
Okay. If you're here for this project, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Okay. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Tiberi, the engineer for the project. The project is being driven by the fact that the elevator has seen the end of its useful life, and we need to upgrade the system. In order to do that, the existing head house, as you can see in this figure here with the hatched area, is the expansion area. The existing area is that white block. We've just needed an extra 17 square feet in order to get the control system in for the new elevator system. The existing wrought iron railings and everything else would be moved forward, as you can see in this figure. The hatched area to the lower left basically shows you that we're expanding out towards the front. The height is basically going to be the same as the existing height of the existing skylight that's over top of it. The existing skylight will be removed because it doesn't afford us the environmental controls we need for the elevator system. So we'll be putting new environmental controls inside that building area. The building areas, as far as anybody's recollection, is been painted either silver or white for a number of years. But we're proposing to put in like a terracotta root brick veneer to kind of match the existing building foot, so you really kind of blends in and you won't see it coming up Palm Ave from the eastbound side, which is probably the most visible. It's like I said, it's only an extension of the 36 inches towards the front. It's like I said, it's just being driven by the fact that the elevator system needs to be upgraded. Yeah, that's the building. If you come, you can just see the top of the head house right there. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
Terrific. Okay. Anything else, Ron?
Well, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, the technicalities of the elevator repairs goes into a lot of detail, but this is, we just need the extra space and height for the control system in order to meet the regulations for the elevator.
Terrific. Okay, great. So commissioners, before I turn it over to you for comments and deliberation, staff has reviewed this proposal and is recommending approval as submitted. The changes to the head houses are minimal and do not impact any character defining features of the structure. And you'll also note that I indicated the relevant guidelines below in my staff comment. So I will turn it over to you for discussion and additional comments.
Okay, well, commissioners, observations?
I just have one question. When you say that you're putting a brick facade to sort of make it less visible, will that cover like the existing head house as well?
Yeah.
Or
we're gonna
refacing the whole thing?
We're gonna reface the whole thing because that white just sticks out like a sore thumb. But I think it would help a lot.
And then the sort of triangular pyramidish, that's the skylight that will not be there anymore.
That's the skylight will be removed. Yeah.
So it'll just be a flat surface basically as far as
Yep.
the top of it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I walked on ComAv the other day, and on this side of the street, on the same side as the building, you really hardly see it. It's just very, very non-visible. But it is, you do see it from the other side when you're walking eastbound. And so yeah, I think I agree that the brick maybe will make it blend in with the building more.
Blend in a bit more, be less visible. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
I wouldn't add anything to Helen's, but Ed or Kirsten, do you have any extra observations?
I don't.
I don't either.
In that case, then, I'd like to make a motion that we approve it. Sorry.
Public comment.
Oh, well, I thought as a design review, that was optional.
No. Design review is required.
I see. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, then, I certainly don't want to skip over the public comments, and I will read. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing. So.
Okay. I'm not seeing any hands raised in the room. Let me just double check and see if I have any comments that were submitted with the application. I'm not seeing any of the public comments that were submitted electronically, so we can close public comments for this application, Sharon, and I'll turn it back to you for a motion.
Okay, very good. In that case, then, I will entertain a motion to accept as submitted.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Right. All in favor?
I agree.
Aye. Right, the motion is the design review is approved as submitted. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Ron. I'll get you an approval letter tomorrow, okay?
Appreciate it, Nick. Thank you very much. Have a
Good
good
night.
day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next administrative review is application 260645. That's 4-12 KILSYTH Terrace, building envelope rehab of a 4-story brick apartment building. And the developer is present?
These are administrative. They're not required to be present today,
Oh, I
Sharon.
see. Okay.
Yep.
Well, from my review, it looks like it's complying with with conservation regulations.
Can I
Yep.
just ask one question, Nick?
Sure.
Go for it.
Because this is a fairly major restoration. In the little description, it says replacing it with 6/1. But like when I clicked into the application, it looks like
Yep.
the current building is 6/6, and I couldn't tell whether the application was for 6/6 or the application was for 6/1.
Good question.
And
So
if it is 6/1, do you think that's appropriate?
I believe this is 6/1. Let me double check. Yes. This is KILSYTH. Is this 6/1?
Where's she going?
No, I don't know. Business.
Yeah. Monkey business.
Okay, this may have been, I was working with the applicant on this. This is a project that has been a long time coming now. This application was submitted with 6/6, and for some reason, I thought this was supposed to be 6/1, and it may have been a mistake, but the owner, the property manager of the property is willing to do the appropriate window pane configuration. So I think we should just make a motion to approve with the provisos that these are 6/6s. That I believe was my mistake. But we can correct that during your motion. So you're correct. I do believe these are 6/6s.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yep.
Okay.
My mistake. I apologize.
We're not keeping track. Okay, so
And
now
then
please go ahead, Nick.
yep. So there's that one, and then there's 10 SELKIRK Road. Does anyone have any questions about that?
No.
Okay, perfect. So before we make a motion, Sharon, you want to just open up the room for public comment? It looks like Lorraine has something to say about this project.
Okay. Members of the public have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
Terrific. Okay, Lorraine, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and you can ask your question or make your comment.
Thank you. I am an owner at 12 KILSYTH Terrace. I just wanted to clarify, as I understand it, it says 6/1 simulated divided lights. So it's going to look like 6/6.
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
I just wanted to be sure that we were clear about that.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
I think that's what the previous conversation just clarified that.
Yes.
That's
yes.
that's what the point of that was.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Thank you, Lorraine. All right. Next up we have is Phil. Phil, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Phil.
Now we can, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Now, so I just want to clarify what you believe you just clarified. Number first, it will be 6/6. Will the lights actually be divided, or is there going to be some kind of piece of plastic put on each side of the window pane to make it appear to be divided?
Yeah, that's a great question, Phil. So our guidelines do not do not require that windows have to be true divided lights. They only request that they're simulated divided lights with applied interior and exterior muntin bars, which cannot be plastic, but they do not have to be simulated, or they do not have to be true divided lights, unfortunately. So these windows are being proposed as simulated divided lights with interior and exterior applied muntin bars.
No, I'm trying to, in my mind, understand what this will physically be. Will the mutton bars be able, can one touch them the way they can
Yes.
now with true divided?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So they'll basically what will happen is there'll be a grid on the outside, a grid on the inside. You can touch them. You cannot remove them because they're integrated into the sash. However, it will be one pane of glass that the grids will sit on top of. There are other districts that the city of Boston have that require true divided lights. Aberdeen only requires that they're simulated, but with applied muntin bars, so which would exclude the snap in and snap out muntin bars. So because those tend to break and then they get messy. So this one will have simulated divided lights, and you will be able to touch them if you chose.
And then there's the second piece of glass to make it a thermal insulation.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And these mutton bars, I don't know how, the dimensions of the mutton bar. Currently, they're wood,
Mhm.
and they're the owner on the interior paints them whatever color or not that they choose.
Mhm.
So is this the acquisition of the windows as far as the material of these mutton bars? Do we even know if they could be painted, or are they, although they're fixed, we don't know if I live at this address as well.
Okay.
I should have explained who I was. So I'm just curious as to whatever color they arrive on site. I don't know if that's the only color it could ever be, or if it could be painted on. But you don't get involved in that, I'm guessing. Is that correct?
Yes. So our commission does not regulate color. So that would be up to you and your board members of the condo association. But it's our understanding that you can paint these. So
Okay.
that will be a discussion that you'll need to have with your condo members.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Good to hear from you. All right. Let's see. Okay. Looks like so we had Phil, and then maybe it looks like Victor. Victor, go ahead.
Hello. Oh, hello. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yep.
Hi, I also live at 12 KILSYTH. I'm really excited about this project. It's a long time coming. I've been asking for this for like 15 years I've been living here. I have a few questions. I'm a little unclear. What do they mean with wood? Are these what do you call them? Mutton bars? Are these going to be made out of wood? Or is it? Or are we
I believe they're
the wood ones? Because the wood ones have been breaking. So what did that mean? I don't actually know what was submitted, which is why I'm in this meeting.
they are wood, according to what was applied for. And let's see, I'll get you the documents here. Just gonna open it up.
And do they have to be wood? Is this something from you guys? I'm just thinking in terms of like cost. Are these windows that one could find at Anderson, or are these going to be some custom made things? Like I'm a resident. I personally don't care if it's wood or not. I do like the 6/6, and that seems reasonable. But yeah, I'm trying to understand the
So these are standard Marvin windows. We do have requirements as a district. Windows in our district cannot be vinyl. There are other materials that they could possibly be, but they're not. They have to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So our only regulation is that they are not vinyl windows. These are wood, and I believe, these are wood windows, and that's currently what's being proposed by the applicant.
could I ask what are the other materials? And in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong, it seems like wood would be the most expensive out of all the materials. So no, oh, I don't know.
They vary. It's all dependent on window quality.
Mhm.
So this is the application in front of us. We don't have the ability to change the materials right now.
Wait.
The applicant, who's a representative of your building, submitted this on the building's behalf. So this is what we're reviewing. This material is compliant with our guidelines.
Gotcha.
And that's what we're reviewing right now.
Mhm.
I would recommend getting in touch with your condo association if you'd like to discuss an alternate material. We can only approve what was submitted in the application.
That makes sense. And could I ask who submitted this again? I don't, it's very unclear to me who is
Sure.
driving the window placement. It needs to happen and I'm supporting it. I just want to make sure it's done well and as you know,
This
effective as possible.
was, sure, let me just check that out for you. This was submitted by Robert Teague, who I believe is the contractor that's responsible for replacing these windows.
Robert T-I-E-G?
Teague. Yeah.
A-G-U-E. Okay.
Yeah. And Victor, if you'd like more information about, I can get you in touch. You can just shoot me an email and we can discuss offline.
Yes. Yeah. What is your email?
It's nicholas.armada@boston.gov. Armada is, yeah, you can see it right on the screen. Yep.
At boston.gov.
Yep.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And
sure.
I hope this gets approved. We need new windows. And this includes the grouting, like everything will be done.
Correct. It's the entire unit of the window, correct.
I'm particularly sensitive to this because I have water entering my unit at this point due to the lack of repointing in the window. So like this, yeah, this is a major issue. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Okay. Lorraine, you've already spoken, but I'll give you 10 more seconds if you have something else to say. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Sorry. We talked about, can you touch the muttons? Can you actually put pressure on them to raise the window?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I assume they won't put new windows in rotten old frames, that the frames will be replaced.
No, this is a complete set.
Great. Fabulous. Thank you.
Thanks.
When's it going to start?
You need to talk to your contractor. We don't have that information. We're just the commission that approves them.
I was teasing.
Oh,
It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. That's the most public comment we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
So, all right. I'll turn it back to you, commissioners. Public comment is now closed for this on these applications.
Okay, at this point, I believe we would, correct me if I'm wrong, we're ready for a motion to approve with provisos, assuming all of the public comments have been addressed. Do commissioners want to add anything?
No.
So you're going to do the provisos that it's 6/6, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry, 6/6.
Sorry. Yep.
I'm reading the wrong note. Yeah.
It's okay.
All right, in that case, then application 260645. We're going to approve. I would like to suggest or nominate that we approve with the proviso that the windows be 6/6 divided. Do I have anyone to second the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then the motion is carried.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, on to the next order of business, which is, I just lost the screen, but it's,
The advisory review.
okay, well, there was something else about 10 Selkirk. Was that,
That was the other administrative.
okay, in that case, then we're going to go on to
1954 Ave.
application number 26.0908, 1954 Commonwealth Avenue.
Okay. And Mark, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Did you want control of the screen? I have the presentation that was submitted to the planning department, but if you have a different one, I'd be happy to give you control.
It's really the same one if you want to do it, but a question is, do you want us, I sent everything from the first iterations that we did. to now? You want to jump in where we are now, or you want to go through it?
I think we should jump in with the existing design.
What we have now? Okay.
Correct. Right. Okay, Mark, before we get started, commissioners, this is an advisory review. Because it's an advisory review, no vote will be taken. It's my recommendation that we allow 15 to 20 minutes of presentation, followed by 10 or so minutes of comments. I do not recommend public comment because there is no application for this project. Once an application has been submitted, then the public will have the ability to weigh in and submit comments in writing or at the hearing. Sharon, as the chair, you do have the ability to, if you wanted to take public comment, you could. I don't recommend it at this time because we do not have any application in front of us.
Well, I don't think we need public comment at this time because this is a very substantial project. And the commissioners need time to review every single page, although we've all done it at least twice. I also want to recommend, unless the commissioners want to take a look at a specific page, that we move right to consideration of the points that have been raised as far as the design and other features that were noted by other reviewers. So let me see.
Okay. So Sharon, I'm just going to turn it over to the design team. Mark, I have your presentation on the screen. Just tell me when you want me to change the page, and just basically describe the project
Sure.
and your design ideas here, and then the commission will give you some comments so that you'll be prepared for a full application when the time comes. Okay.
Sure.
Great.
So this is an older reiteration. Can we jump to the perspectives that have the new?
Do you know what page it's on?
No, keep going. Keep going. This is basically the design process.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure I submitted everything. I wasn't sure whether you all wanted it or not.
So do I have the wrong presentation?
No.
Okay.
You keep going.
So this is the end.
Okay, why don't I take the screen then?
Okay. Go for it.
So can everyone see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I'm sure you're all familiar with the site and the house that's on there, built in 1910 mission style. What we're doing is we're going to move it forward on Com Ave and then put the addition in the rear. So what we're really prioritizing is the preservation and the distinctive facade of the existing building with its decorative mission style entryway, the exposed rafter tails, etc. What we tried to do is to make our building compatible, and we reference the Secretary of State guidelines for additions to historic structures. It's better to be a little bit differentiated from the existing rather than trying to do it all up in a mission style. It can get kind of hokey that way. So we tried to just do a few elements and use some materials that tied the two buildings together. So in the front, as a reaction to some of the comments, actually, we have like a terracotta panel on our building and some ganged windows at the top, kind of similar to the existing dormer on the mission house. Hold on 1 second here. This, we have some existing photos, but I'm sure you're all aware of the house. Is actually probably getting close to when this building can be saved. It's starting to leak water, etc. So what we plan to do on the site plan here, you can see, do you see my cursor or not? Sometimes the
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the existing house that's sort of in the central rear of the lot. We're going to pull it forward to Comm Ave. We're going to take down a little bit of the back so we can connect our new building to it. The garage, which seemed to be something that the neighborhood was adamant in trying to save some of, we're going to partially remove the facade and relocate it. We're going to restore what we can. We're going to replicate what we can't restore, so it'll look basically the same. So I'll just describe how the site circulation works, and I'll let Susan, the landscape architect, take over for this portion. We're basically entering the site on the left side, and we're going to park under. So we're a full story less than the previous reiteration of this project. Susan, do you want to describe how the circulation works? Are you unmuted? Nick, can you unmute Susan, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Excellent. So we have done a few iterations of our site plan where we've made changes based on comments and things that they thought wouldn't work with, you know, the DCR property and stuff. But basically what we have here, we've got two smaller native shade trees in the front. Not exactly sure what species those will be yet, but we do have an arborist on set on our design team. And so we have chosen some preliminary trees. We'll see what time of year we're able to plant and what's available. But it's a fairly small front yard, only 20 feet deep. So they've got to be fairly small trees. And then we've also added a street tree where the old driveway entrance was. The existing wall in the front of the property, it's a New England round stone wall. It's, you know, it's pretty old. It's been repaired several times, and given the age and the number of penetrations and infills that we're going to have to do, we're a little concerned about keeping the portion of the wall that can remain and being able to match the mortar and the caps and everything. So we'll do our best, see what we can do. But at worst case, we, you know, try and recycle some of the stone material, build a panel for approval to show that it's going to be very similar character what's existing there now, because we figure there's only about 40 feet of it that would be able to remain on the site. So that's sort of one of those things we'll do it, as Mark said, we'll do what we can. But the intention is that it will look the same as what was existing there originally. And then there's the handicap access is comes off of Comm Ave. There's a ramp, a landing at Comm Ave, ramp up, switch back, a landing, ramp up. So we've got two sets of stairs in between there. And these are all shrub planting beds in between. So it really, from the street elevation anyway, it will look like, oops, did I do that, Mark?
No, it's
Okay.
me.
It looks like the ramps are integrated with the planting. You'll see the handrails, but it's the safer solution on this north side of the property. Earlier schemes that other developers had done, we didn't like how they used a ramp in the porte cochere area, which would make it basically unusable for people. So this will be an outdoor space that's usable And then these will all be ADA compliant ramps that will be integrated into a planting system. Then we come back, and this is the old garage facade. In this color. So that'll be the new sort of lobby entry into the new portion of the building. If we come to the existing main entry, pretty much the same thing. It's a wider walkway, and we'll probably use scored concrete as our walk surfaces, and probably a solid stone tread for our steps in these situations. Handrails will be simple and compatible with what the railing systems used on the building. The driveway down to the garage and bike storage and trash will be permeable pavers. There will be a transformer in the front. Not sure exactly what the location would be. It could be that it comes over to this side since the mechanical's over here, but that will have to be coordinated with the civil engineer and Eversource. But there definitely is going to be a transformer. Our preference would be that it would be in a vault so that we don't have to do screen planting around it. But again, that's sort of up in the air at this point. And then there will be access around to the back of the building. It's not a lot, but you can get back there. Mark, are you doing this or am I?
We'll see that your hand drawings are very large, so when I move them, they
That's
kind of
fine.
delay.
Okay. So you can get around the side of the building here. There's clearance that you can still make it into the back rear yard area. But we're trying to be sensitive to the existing trees up in the DCR property. This one in particular is not in great shape, but we're going to do everything in our power to stay away from the root system. The existing garage, you can sort of see the outline of it. The existing garage is this footprint. So in theory, there shouldn't be a lot of roots in this particular area anyway, because of the existing structure that's been there, predates the trees even. So we do again have a arborist on our design team, and she's done a preliminary site risk assessment. We'll be working with her, come up with the best plan to try and maintain any protection areas that need to be put up, have an elaborate tree protection plan. Someone in some of the earlier meetings had asked if it would be possible for us to come and do, structural pruning or whatever we needed to do to the trees before the project. And again, it'll be something that we'll have to coordinate with the city and the arborist. So the bottom line is we'll do everything in our power to maintain the integrity and the protection of all the trees in the DCR property. And then I guess there is a retaining wall here because we're going to be down, I forget, is it 4 feet, Mark, from the rear lot line? Been a while.
Yes.
Yes, so it's a 4-foot retaining wall back at the property line. And I think that's pretty much it. The only other thing is that in our last go round, we did, they asked that we add some green roof to the project. So we did do that, and Mark can show you that in his plans. But other than that, I think that's pretty much everything for the landscape. One other thing, the planting is predominantly native plant materials, which once established will be, lower maintenance, less water required. So we're trying to stay with as many native plants as possible for the project. And I think that's.
Susan, can you speak to the materials of the driveway and the retention wall leading down to the garage? Because that's a significant design change.
The driveway will be permeable pavers, and then the retaining wall along the driveway access will be like a stucco. We we had conversations about this, about the materials, and given, it would be near impossible to do stone that would be compatible with the original building. So I think the consensus was we would do a stucco that matched the building on those retaining wall surfaces.
Would it be scored?
Right. It'll blend with the facade of the building.
Let's move on to the actual building itself. And if you had elevations for all sides of the building.
Yeah. Should we jump right to the elevations? You're probably not so much.
We can't comment on anything on the interior of the building. It's outside of our purview.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is the Commonwealth Avenue elevation. We have tried to duplicate the existing window muntin pattern on the existing house. And then we also have chosen like a 6/1 for the majority of the windows on the new addition. Basically, it's a grill top and an open bottom, which I think goes nicely with the existing house. We have the clay panel, tile panel on the at the center. Our building is lined up right in line with the center line of the existing building. You can see here the garage facade that we're going to try to use as many parts of it as we can. If not, it'll be replicated, and we'll use use what we can really. And then you see the this was the porte cochere on the side here. Let's see so the left side elevation, ComAv on the right, driveway down going to underground parking. Our building will be the first floor. First story will be painted hardy plank with aluminum spacers. It's kind of a masonry looking material, actually is part masonry material, kind of giving the building a base. And then we're going to planning to do stucco above. So this is the rear of the building. The rear of the building, we're open to some suggestions, but we planned on doing kind of a deco top to it because the two buildings on each side have these deco characteristics to them. We're not doing that in the front where you can see the existing building, but we thought maybe in the back it might be appropriate. It's just a simple building, has a nice scale to it, matches the other buildings on each side. And then we have, this is the right side elevation. And we outlined the previous reiteration showing the difference in height. So we brought it down quite a bit, which I think helps the existing building a lot. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories and 1 story of parking beyond. Our railings, we're going to do solid panel and aluminum frame. We did propose, and I think we showed it 2 ways, a glass panel and a solid panel. I think people are leaning more towards a solid panel. That's basically it. Sorry. Let's go back to the front. So if anyone has any questions or comments.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark and Susan. So commissioners, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't we start with the landscape? So let's segment this conversation up. We'll start with the landscaping, then we'll go to the front facade, then we'll do the side facades, and then the rear facade. So let's start with the landscaping first, and then we'll go from there. So the landscaping would include, the driveway, the planting plan, all of which we have purview over, the switchback for the ADA access, and then of course the retention wall in the front, and then of course the driveway leading down to the garage.
Let me start off by addressing the retention wall, because that brick wall has been a notable part of this for the last 35 years or so. Your description said that it was in highly dubious state. Can you enlarge on your evaluation of that?
It's stone. It's a round stone wall. Mark, do we have existing conditions pictures?
Yeah.
Over time, when the wall is repaired, it's almost impossible to match a 70-year-old mortar mix. And so you see that the grout lines in the walls are, they're maybe brighter white, or it doesn't match. And then there's also been a few times where I think walkway locations might have changed or something, but
Sorry. Hold
that's
on.
not it.
Oh, you keep talking. I'm gonna
Okay.
come in.
So I guess I'm just concerned that if we're only keeping, 40 linear feet of the existing wall that can remain, and that doesn't even take into account the utilities and what we need to do for utilities. You can see the piers.
Mhm.
It's difficult to
Oh, yeah.
match. Can you scroll up a little bit? Yeah.
That's not me.
It's not me.
I
I'm
have
not
it.
doing it.
I'm showing it while you
Oh.
guys are, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
So I mean, I guess the point is that we know the materials, the round stone of varying sizes. We know the width of the mortar joint, and you can see even where they've put square stone in places that doesn't match. So we can try and keep what's possible to keep, but I think my concern is that it's just gonna look like a hodgepodge, because I don't know how we can match that. It's really the mortar that's
Not only that, but there's a lot of new penetrations going through that wall. That's
well, they're
part
in
of the
different.
problem,
Yeah.
Okay,
right?
but I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
since the stone wall is quite a distinctive part of the whole site,
Yeah.
I would encourage you to be really apply yourself to restoring as much as you possibly can. I'm a little nervous about descriptions of the overall condition that would apply to any historic district.
Right.
And it is often used as a reason for complete demolition and starting over from the beginning. So that is all I wish to say about the stone wall. I think other commissioners have some observations about other aspects of this. So let me cede the floor over to my other fellow commissioners. Ed, Helen, Kirsten?
I absolutely 100% agree about the wall. It's a defining from the street. That's right now. That's pretty much what you see. I had a question about none of the renderings really. It was something that was brought up sort of really quickly, but the mechanicals sort of in the front yard. It looks as though there's in any of the renderings they're not present. Is that the only place that they can be put, in that sort of front to the left, or?
The transformer?
Yeah, there was a mention of mechanicals, and you said
Yeah.
you didn't necessarily want to screen it.
Mark, why don't you share your screen again? Yeah, there you go.
Less so the drawing, but more there was a sort of the renderings that of the front yard that you shared a little bit later, sort of there it is. So it doesn't seem to be present in that picture.
We don't have it in the picture.
Yeah, how large is it going to be, and that is that
I
the
think
only-
it's about 6 by 6 by 4.5 feet tall, something like that, but we're not really sure exactly where it's going to go. It's got to be coordinated with the utility company. There's a chance we can put it underground in a vault, which is what we'd like to do. Put it in the driveway, perhaps in a vault. But we don't have enough information right now to pin it down exactly.
That's fine, Mark, but just know that the commission has purview of where those are located, so you will
Sure.
need to have that figured out by the time you submit.
Okay.
And we would prefer it to be somewhere that's not in the front, if possible. We understand that sometimes that has to happen, but it's a preference for the commission to have those out of view. But
Yeah, I think that a box that big would sort of dominate that side of the lawn.
And other observations about the landscaping? I have to say, I'm quite in favor of the permeable pavers for the driveway. I do ask why you're using scored concrete for the other access.
For the walkways,
Yes.
really, honestly, it's more for it's the north side of the building, which tends to be fairly icy, even well, especially
Okay.
this last winter. So it was really more of a safety sort of simple solution. We could look at pavers, but I feel like with the ramps and the interface with the steps and stuff, the scored concrete might be a better solution.
Okay. All right.
We could certainly do like pavers up at the pour cochere area, things that are more you know, gathering areas or whatever. If you prefer something like that.
Well, we have a lot of other features to cover in this thing, so let's move on to, has everyone expressed their thoughts on the landscaping, and can we move on?
I'm not sure if it pertains to the landscaping, and I may have missed a meeting where we went over the purpose of the 4-foot retaining wall in the back of the building. Is that just to sort of get that extra layer down?
Well, the site slopes up from Ave to the park in the back. So the problem becomes getting into the front entry with the handicap access, et cetera. So you're setting the ground floor at a certain elevation as high as you can. And from there, you have to work it out from there. So that's why we're recessed a little bit in the back.
So you're carving out the ground to allow for that extra level.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Commissioners, what about the switchback ramp in the front for the wheelchair access? Any comments?
I'm assuming it complies with the gradient elevation.
It does. It's handicap compliant. Yes, ADA compliant. There's quite a bit of grade change. That's why we sort of some of the earlier schemes I don't think were really that well resolved in terms of the grading and the access, but this is sort of what we
didn't
needed
want
to
to
do.
we didn't want to attach it to the building.
Yeah.
We didn't want to have it as our main entry because that's dangerous. So this way it kind of gets it off to the side. We can screen it and we can keep the existing front entry. We can create our own entry to the middle of the building too.
Okay.
So the two buildings don't connect with each other because there's sort of
they do. Yeah, they do.
They do, Ed. Yeah.
And so the right entrance is considering the main entrance, and the left entrance is a secondary entrance?
I would say that, yeah, because just in terms of, I mean, you could use this as the main entry, but it would be a hike to the back. So the entry that we are considering the main entry is on the side, goes under the porte cochere. You enter into the garage, which is now like a lobby space, mail, conference room, that kind of thing. But we wanted to retain the main entry. We didn't want to seal it off and have a kind of like a phony main entry, so we kept that too. So I imagine the people living in the renovated house will use the entry on the left.
Okay. Well, I have nothing more to add about the handicap access. There are some other points I would like to get to, but Helen, do you have any thoughts on the handicap access or landscaping in general?
No, I don't know if there's any more practical way to do the handicap access. It seems like at least it sort of buffers it. I don't want to belabor the discussion now, but I would like in future to know more specifically what the permeable pavers for the driveway would be.
Okay.
All right. Should we move on to the structure, the addition at the rear of the property?
Yeah, this the demolition of the garage presents some difficulty for me because the statement that it was in poor condition I've heard before, but the matching garage to this building has always been a main feature, and it looks like you've saved part of the facade, but everything else is a new build to be incorporated with the new structure. Is that correct?
We're just using the front portion of the garage. That's right.
And demolishing the rear portion?
Yes. I mean, this is what we've done is it's almost like the broomstick of the Wicked Witch. This is a remarkable what we could save here. There's no way to do this project and save the whole garage. It's impossible.
And you've tried other renditions to incorporate it into the new
Oh
building?
yeah, we had it on the back. We had it here and there. It doesn't fit. I mean, this is you're still getting the same view of what it is now. It's just in a different location, and we're trying to save as much of it as we can. We're going to try to save the rafter tails. They're quite nice. The doors, we're going to try to save the openings. I don't know if we can save the actual door. Have you all been up into the garage?
Not in the last year or so. I know
Yeah.
that it's been a subject of what to do with this situation, and in the meantime, the different owners have a different view of maintenance.
Yeah.
But we may have to come back to the garage unless one of the commissioners would like to make an observation or two.
Can I actually ask about the porte cochere, and is that original porte cochere being preserved and restored?
Yeah, we're gonna replicate it the way it is, so it'll
What
appear
does
exactly the
replicate
same.
mean?
But we can't, again, we can't move that porte cochere and save it. It's not feasible. Can you imagine? It's two giant columns and a roof. We can pick the building up, but we can't pick the porte cochere up and move it.
Why can you pick the building up but not the porte cochere?
Well, the building, you slide a couple steel beams through it and you jack it up and you can move it. The porte cocheres, they'll just wobble all over the place and come down.
Could you remove the roof and then move the columns and then put the roof back on the columns when it's
Hardly. It's hardly worth it. For what? What's
I
wrong
think
with
we'll leave I think we'll
preserve
leave
it.
those comments to the commission to decide, but let's move on for the design
Okay.
comments.
Yeah, there's a great deal to cover. The windows. I see that you've included arched windows in the new addition. And let me just see my picture. Yeah. The windows as your diagram presented seems to be okay. I do have a question about the balconies, but that's a separate issue. So the windows seem to replicate the original structure. And that seems to be acceptable. You do have 4 arched windows. And that duplicates the arches that are in the porte cochere that you've diagrammed here. And on the other side of the building where you have an arch on the opposite side of the older structure. So duplicating that design element is helpful, I think, and quite useful. I'm undecided about how busy the front facade looks, but I would defer to the other commissioners on that point. So, Ed or Kirsten, maybe you could help me out here.
I know that we usually try to, whenever there's additions, we try to make sure that they look distinctly different from the original elements. Do the 2 elements look different enough?
Well, can't they be different but complementary?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Can I make a few just sort of general comments, Sharon,
Yeah.
about the overall facade? And this may sort of it's a little hard to break out just the front from the sides, but
Yeah.
you know, as we've said, the existing house is mission style, and it's generally quite rectilinear, except for the entrance portal with the scout portal there, with fairly simple facades with a few setback areas. And I feel the new building should echo that style without specifically copying it. But I think we should look for elements of a mission, sort of nodding to a mission style, as opposed to an Art Deco style. If this were a new building built on this, if this were nothing on this site, then maybe looking at an Art Deco reference to the building next to it would be appropriate. But in this case, I think it should reference the mission style building on this site. In terms of the requirements to differentiate, I think that by the size and shape, by the size of the new building itself, it will be obvious that it's an addition. It can be differentiated by a slightly different material color so that it's you see the offset the new from the old. But I think we want to me, I think that we should be looking at picking up the mission elements rather than looking at the neighboring building. I feel
Let me ask this, and I'm straying a bit from the window question, but looking at the new structure, the new proposed structure and the old structure head on, if we suggested on the tower part a different crown, something that imitated the old entrance, would that be enough, do you think?
No, well, actually, my next point that I want to make is that the central tower element, which is protruding out onto the front of the facade, is not in keeping with really the original design. It's sort of disruptive to have that pushing forward. It kind of creates too many facades, too many almost nooks and crannies with the front porches or front balconies.
Yeah.
The tower pushing forward. The facades of the original building are quite plain. They're flat facades. There are a couple of little recessed areas. But I feel that the front tower, it just sort of overpowers and it kind of intrudes on the original buildings. Some like reworking where I guess that is the elevator, but reworking that element to make a smoother front facade of the building to me would be
if we had a roof line similar to the older building,
right,
rather than that upright crown, but to have something that's
or just rather than having that whole protrusion that that like juts out from the front facade of the building. If the whole
Mm.
facade were smoother and more, you know, just one
Yeah, well,
plane.
that's an Art Deco crown that was referenced in an earlier thing. I agree that the Art Deco crown is adding one more element that doesn't entirely belong and it doesn't complement. So I think Helen, you and I are in agreement on that.
Me too.
Oh, you too, Ed. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. I'm not sure how I feel about the front and the back having completely different styles either.
Yeah.
Where I think that the building should sort of stand on its own merits as far as 360 view.
Yeah,
Having
yeah.
a back have one distinct style and have the front have another distinct style. I think it
I
should be more cohesive.
I think that it needs to be cohesive and be its own entity, that even if you're not seeing the back and the front at the same time, they should be compatible and compliant with each other. And adding the Art Deco elements in the back to me is not appropriate. I also feel like are we still on the front facade?
We're kind of moving around because everything is
I
connected.
kind of feel like there's sort of clipped kind of diagonal corners to the new building, which I also feel like don't complement or kind of mesh with the very rectilineal facades and corners of the original building. To me, if it came just more to, you know, a rectangle, a squared edge,
Mhm.
that would be more more complementary to the existing style.
Okay, well, let me go back to an earlier note. Do we have an agreement on the arched windows in the tower portion, or do we want to reconsider that?
I mean, personally, I would like to reconsider the tower portion to not be a tower, to like smooth out that whole front facade and not have that tower jutting forward and kind of jutting into and just sort of disrupting the view of the original house.
Yeah, but that's also part of the mechanicals, and they have to go somewhere.
It's the elevator. There's
Okay,
some things that we can do, there's some things that we can't do. There's no way we can get rid of the tower.
okay.
So,
And it wouldn't work in the back, is that right, Mark?
no,
Elevator can't be in the
no.
middle of the building.
It's in the
Oh,
middle of
that's
the
essentially
building.
where it is.
Oh, okay.
So I
Mhm.
can change the character of it. We can do something there. We can definitely do the back, take the deck off the back. We can remove the eased edges on the corners if you want. I kind of like them, but we can do that too. But the towers,
Yeah.
that's what makes time travel possible.
All right, so it sounds
Why
like
are you
we're
shaking your
inching.
head, Nick?
I'll say that this is a brand new building. We can do anything,
Well,
right?
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
And the commission has purview over it. So
You
that's
know-
why I'm shaking my head, sir.
I just want to comment that and actually thank you for coming to do this advisory review, because I think that's very helpful. We are aware of this property because we've already gone through a review process with the prior developer,
Yeah.
and that proposal did not have this protruding tower in the front. And
Yes, it
I realize
did.
that you can't just copy what the previous designer, put forward, but it might be helpful to look at what was designed there, because
It did have the protruding tower.
we went through several iterations with that
Am I
developer. I think
mute?
we met I know we met at least 3 times and maybe 4 times. And the thing is that we did at the end arrive at a proposal that the commission voted on and approved. So I mean, I think it's just a matter of going through the process, but
Right, Helen, it did have a tower.
I live in a building with an elevator that does not have a protruding tower. So
Is it
that's an
possible-
example of a
is it
building that does not.
Is it possible to show the one that we approved previously?
Yeah,
On it right now.
hold
Thanks,
on.
Nick.
He's got it.
Oh,
That's not it.
I got it.
Nick has it.
So,
Yeah, that's okay.
yeah,
The-
so the thing that I notice about particularly the new one is the original structure gets completely lost, and I don't know what the right answer is as far as style is concerned, but at least in this one, you can still see and kind of understand the original building. And the side garage is there too.
I think that's a
Mhm.
really good point, Kristen. I think that's when I'm speaking about the tower, kind of driving forward and overwhelming the original building. The developer, current developer is correct. There is a tower there, but everything is simpler. Every facade is simpler. And it's just not as busy, so that the original house can just sort of shine in front and have that new building as a background.
I really like this one too. I think this may have been before my time on the commission, but I
Yeah,
really like this
yeah.
design. And it does look as though they were able to move the on the side over with the house as well. The columns and the roof.
The what? The what?
I
On the side
think they had to move the house and the porte cochere separately. But my notes don't indicate if rebuilding the porte cochere was decided on, or did we table it because there was a lot to cover.
So
I don't know, but also that's just a facade of the garage. That's not the whole garage. You all realize that, right?
Yeah, we do realize that.
Okay.
And I recall that the discussion about the garage was left undetermined because of the position about outright demolition. And I know it's an odd point, but in the Aberdeen district, when it was being developed, garages were a very new and innovative feature. And wherever possible, we need to keep them. But getting back to the main discussion, can we get back to settling the subject of the windows, or do we want to leave that for later?
Could I just, and I know I'm sort of backtracking a little bit, but looking at that rendering that we just had, it looks as though the gradient might be long enough does that accommodate a ramp without having to have the switchbacks?
Maybe.
No, what? You want
What Nick had just posted.
if you want to have a bunch of accidents there and people breaking their hips.
Okay. Am I still muted?
No, we can
No,
hear
we
you.
can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did a study of the grading, the proposed grading and ramps from 2 previous studies, and they are not ADA compliant. This one, they're not.
Is it because the building in the previous rendering is further back? Is it in the same place, or?
They just didn't work the grading out.
When you have the main entry as a handicap ramp, that's a recipe for disaster, especially on the north side of the building.
We have those. I have that. I did a whole grading study for all the previous proposals, and we can get those to you. They don't.
Could I see the one from the one that we just saw then?
Is that this one, Mark?
The studies that you did, Susan? What are you talking about?
I think
that what was that plan that was just there? No.
That's something Nick shared.
You said you had done a gradient study of all of the proposals before this one, and
yes,
sure. Let me find it. Hold on.
Which there's a markup of the 2.
I guess for me, we're calling I guess for me, we're calling the entrance on the right the main entrance, but when I look at the building, I'm seeing the one on the left as the main entrance, since it's the entrance into the house as it exists now. I know the use case will change, but
Okay.
If you can't find it,
is-
you can't find
We-
it. You
we
just said
can-
that you had it.
We
so-
have it. We can get it to you though. It was a whole,
Well, we sent it, we said, that was part of the
Yeah.
package that we sent in, so
Sure,
I'm
we
not
can
sure.
we can
what-
put that
it's-
on hold
it's
for
in there
now.
somewhere.
But if there is a way to just kind of have a ramp go from the sidewalk straight into the building, I think the people using the ramp will appreciate it instead of having to kind of zigzag. And I think also it'll retain the lawn a little bit more. I mean, if it's possible, it's possible. If it's not, it's not. Just looking at that rendering, and I don't know if it was to scale, it looked as though it was sort of a smooth, straight track right to the door. But it's something we can talk about later.
It's part of the landscaping thing, and is it because of the switchback element that the handicap access looks too busy?
I mean, it might look busy, but it's ADA compliant. The other ones were
Okay.
not. They, if you have
No,
anything other
yeah,
than.
I understand, Susan. My question was to Ed. Did it appear to him to be too busy
To
with the
I-
landscaping?
Comparing
Ah.
the two, the previous proposal to me looked a lot sort of more simpler and just sort of a straight,
I
Okay.
I
like I said,
agree.
yeah, I mean, if
I-
it's, oh, sorry.
No, so I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
Oh, no, go ahead. I think I already,
I agree with that as well, and also the previous proposal, has the wall in there as well. So I'm not
Okay,
sure.
so I think what I'm hearing is, in order to be ADA compliant, the ramp has to be a switchback, but conceivably, if we ask for fewer plantings, then it won't be so visually cluttered.
I mean,
Have I got that right?
we can take the planting out. I mean, but there's no way to have a straight run to the back and be ADA
Okay.
compliant. It's impossible.
All right, I understand that, but let me.
Here we go. Here we go. Go down farther, Mark. Here's the one that you all approved, I believe. Right? Yes, design approved. This has a you can see it's got a 15-foot. You have to be able to see the grading, but if you look at it and study it, you can see that they're over 5% slopes that don't have handrails, and then there's no landing at the. Can you lift it up a little, Mark? There's no landing at Com Ave. It's a handicap ramp right to Commonwealth Ave. 28 feet long. It doesn't work.
Even if you could get it to work, I would never be part of a project that had this as a main entry. It's a hazard.
Can you lift it up a little bit, Mark? Keep going. So you see where it interfaces. It's it's a handicap ramp, 28 feet long with no landing at Com Ave. And the porte-cochere area is says a 7% slope, which requires handrails. I mean.
gotcha. I was just asking a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just figuring since you're doing all that digging, you're digging out the back by 4 feet. I didn't know if that changed the grade at all. I'm just asking questions,
Yeah. I mean, it might look simpler because it is simpler, but it doesn't work. It's the bottom line,
Okay.
It's got to be compliant.
Can you just, I'm actually a little unclear. Could you just, about the entrance areas, could you just review, and you probably did this in your original presentation, but there was a lot to take in. Can you just review like where the handicap entry is and that walkway and where that leads to versus how people would approach, say as pedestrians, not coming out of the parking garage, where that entry would be for people not using a handicap that handicap walkway.
There's a walkway with steps in it that would be used as opposed to the handicap ramp. It all integrates together.
So if somebody needs
just
to use
do
a
it.
wheelchair and they drive into the garage, they'll have to go out to Com Ave and come around?
Well, they'd use the elevator.
Oh,
Well,
I'm
the
sorry. I thought
elevator
you said there
goes
was a
down to the
staircase.
parking area. Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
gotcha.
So,
But if you were
okay.
walking up from Com Ave, there's a straight shot walkway there with 2 sets of steps in it.
Right, that's what I was trying to get clarification.
Yeah.
So,
If you were coming from inside the building, you would take the elevator.
right. But coming from Com Ave, that sort of to the left of that handicap switchback is a walkway that for direct access for non-handicap use.
Correct.
And then for using the handicap, does this sort of curve, sort of S around onto the, like for a second, onto that regular walkway, and then curve back onto the one that's like parallel
Mark,
to Com Ave? Like S is around.
Can you make it go
Around
up,
this
Mark,
there.
so we see where the ramps are? Okay, so when you enter from, keep going up.
Yeah.
There's a 2% slope on the landing here that comes right off of Commonwealth Avenue. And then you go up a handicap ramp with rails on both sides, and that lands at the walkway at the top of the first set of steps.
Mhm.
Then a 2% walk
Yeah,
there.
gotcha.
And then you go up again, handicap ramp with handrails on both sides. You have a 2% landing. And then again, you go back up another handicap ramp, and then the walkway, there's 2%. And the walkway within the porte cochere is 2.5%, so that you can use that entire space.
Okay, thank you.
Rather than having 5% ramps that have to have handrails.
It's
So-
actually a brilliant solution.
Commissioners, it seems to me that like having this sort of switchback plan, but having the plantings there seems to me like that would be an advantage to sort of buffer having that much pavement, like sort of buffer that handicap walkway pavement and give a
And
little green. And to me, would those be shrubs that would be kind of like year-round greenery?
Yeah, I believe some of them were, I can't remember exactly what's in there, but it's, some smaller azaleas that are evergreen that can bloom twice a
Right.
year.
Right.
And those planting beds line up with the stairs in the main walkway. So that's sort of why those are there. Because you've got to tie into, the bottom of the stairs and the top of the stairs. So you've got a 4-foot strip in there that could be nice plant materials.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Commissioners, I mean, any other conversations about the new building? Any elements that we want the architect to look at more or further or refine?
yeah. Sorry, Nick, I was organizing my thoughts here.
And we're going on an hour now, so we should
Okay.
consider wrapping up in about 10-15 minutes.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. But let me suggest this, that the tower as it's presented in the current design is quite prominent. We need to find a way to simplify it so that it doesn't overwhelm the building in front of it. And that's one point. And my second point is the crown on top of the elevator tower. It has to be reduced in appearance somehow to be less outstanding than it is. I realize an elevator mechanical part is a necessity, but this makes a pretty prominent statement. So addressing the crown on the elevator tower, it needs a lot more work, and I would recommend that staff and the Landmarks Commission weigh in on that. The last point I would make is on the balconies. I don't have any objection to the balconies in the rear of the building because in many cases they're camouflaged by the abundant trees back there. But the balconies in front, they add one more element that's awfully busy. And if there was any way either to eliminate the panels or make the balconies smaller, or eliminate the balconies entirely because it's not that common on that part of ComEd, I would do that as well In other words, eliminate them. And one last statement, and then I'll turn over the floor. Using a different design element, the Art Deco in the rear, and keeping to a mission style in the front facing Com Ave, it's way too busy. You don't need to do that. So, commissioners, I cede the floor.
I agree with all of your comments, Sharon. And I think just simplifying the facade so that it is not so busy, and removing the balconies may be part of that. So that we want the original house to be able to be prominent and not overwhelmed by the building behind it. And I completely agree about having just once that it should reference the mission style of the existing building, the existing house. And even though the rear of the house is not visible from the front, the whole building should be the same style. It shouldn't jump around and be different styles from one facade to the next. I do have one question that I wanted to ask the developer, and that is, does the new building facade preserve the rear facade of the existing house? I'm referencing 11.5.C3 in our guidelines about if something new is added, it should not destroy an existing part of the original building, so that if the new element were removed, the original building could still be retained or restored as originally built. So that's my question. That's my last question to the developer, in terms of if which will no longer be visible from a public way, because right now the rear of that building is visible because of backing up onto the Chestnut driveway, or the view from the Chestnut driveway. It will no longer be visible because it will be blocked by the new building. But will that facade be retained and still exist?
So I'm not a developer. I'm an architect. So in terms of your question, though, our new building goes up against the back of the building. So whatever we do back there will be covered up. It's just to make the building work. In this alternative, we have to take off some of the rear. So that's what we were proposing to do.
Removing that rear facade?
Right here, yeah. Well, our building goes up against the back anyway, so you're never going to see the rear.
But it doesn't, don't our requirements call for if a new?
So it's kind of an order operations, right? So you're both right. So the structure, once built, you will not see the demolition of the rear wall. However, you have to approve the demolition first before you build the building, right? So it's partial demolition, and you have to say yay or nay to that, and then it's the approval of the new building that gets built. So
But
that's how this works.
So,
Okay.
but Nick, we have from the one I just referenced, 11.5C3. New additions or alterations should not be done in such a way that if they were to be removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property would be unimpaired. Well, if they remove that rear facade, it will not be unimpaired.
That's the commission's decision. So when they demolish or propose to demolish that wall, that's up to you. So that's demolition comes before new construction.
Yeah, demolition's always a tricky word. All right, well,
I will say that the previous proposal also required partial demolition of the rear of the structure.
It did.
Yes.
I mean, that's long ago. I wasn't sure about that. I couldn't remember.
And the garage.
Yeah.
And portions of the garage, correct.
Yeah.
For technical, then we say the demolition is approved contingent on building the building behind it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Perfect.
And I think, Ed, we're going to have to be really careful about how we word, or how the landscape department approves the word demolition, because it's so much easier to build when you've got a clean slate.
Yeah.
So All right, well, given that this is a design review,
Advisory review.
and I'm
So-
sorry, an advisory review, have we covered all of the high points, or is there anything I've overlooked?
I'll just say that the previous garage demolition, it was approved for demolition up until the edge of it looks like a small dormer in the front of the garage, and then everything behind that was approved for removal. So
Okay,
so that's something to
Okay.
consider.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's it. So, you know, if there are no more comments, or does anyone else have any other comments?
not for me. Helen,
I'm considering, thank you.
Ed, Kirsten?
No, no others.
Is that chimney part of it, or is that part of that we're seeing in this current view?
Chimney, bye-bye. No, with the chimney, we're not saving the chimney.
We've had a lot of discussions about chimneys.
Yes,
Really?
we have. Yeah.
You're coming in late into the game.
Mhm.
I didn't
Because,
realize there was
I
a
mean,
chimney.
think about where it would be. It would be right up against the new building. I don't know what we would do with it.
The chimney was approved for removal at the previous
was?
proposal,
Okay.
just so everybody
Okay.
knows.
Perfect.
Thank you, Nick. You know, I've got notes, but it's been years, so I don't want to delay things by going to hunt them up.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
well,
So I think that's some significant feedback for the design team of this project. So I think we can leave it there, and they're welcome to circle back with me if they have any additional questions or concerns. Yeah, anything else before we wrap up, commissioners?
not for me. And thank you, everyone, for your patience as we work our way through this. It's not the
Does-
most difficult one we've had, but time-wise, we're invested in it.
Is this the only, I do have one last, is this the only advisory review that we will have? Like, is the next time we see this will be the actual application?
That is a question for the team that's developing the
I
property.
mean, in the previous project, I know we went through a few iterations before we got to the point of getting the actual application. All right, that was just my question.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, Susan, any other questions for the commission before we wrap up?
No, thanks for having us.
No, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Great. Okay. Commissioners, let's move on to the last portion of the hearing this evening. Just some quick staff updates, nothing much going on at the moment. So if you haven't read our newsletter, I did write a quick article about the new development that was approved over at the previous hearing, 1 to 7 Selkirk. So if you're not signed up for our newsletter, please feel free to do so. You can scan this QR code here. And then something worth announcing, there is a new landmark over in Charlestown, which is the Swallow Mansion that's located over at 33 Cordis Street. The Landmarks Commission voted to approve that a month ago, and then the mayor and city council have authorized that as an official Boston landmark. So you can go to boston.gov/landmarks to read the study report there. So that's it. That's all we have this evening.
I would say that's more than enough.
So.
And all right, may I entertain a motion to conclude the meeting?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, team. Thanks so much for the good hearing, guys.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
advice, Nick. It's been very helpful.
Thank you,
All right.
Nick. And your
Talk to you
archival
later.
skills.
I
Yes.
appreciate
Yeah.
you. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
you too.
Bye.